for Goy country since 1904. And in the Emil Bocar cabinet, he was minister delegate for relations with Parliament from 1902 to 1901. 2001, sorry. And we have also Marius Job Cohen, who is leader of Netherlands Labour Party. Marius is a Dutch socialist democratic politician and the current leader of the party, and he is holding this position since this year as well. So we have a big group of representation of really brand new leaders. He was State Secretary for Education and Science in the Third Labour's cabinet, member of and parliamentary group leader in the Senate, State Secretary for Justice and Mayor of Amsterdam from 2001 till this year. And there's with us Attila Mesterhazy, who is a leader of MSZP Hungary.
Hello, thank you.
And this is also a brand new leader from July of this year. He was elected the party candidate for the position of the Prime Minister of Hungary in last elections that MCCP lost. As chairman of MCCP in this year municipal election, he pushed the party more to the left, and he likes to use word comrades when speaking about his party colleagues. And Pier Luigi Bersani, leader of the Democratic Party from Italy, current secretary of Italian Democratic Party. He was elected to the Italian Chamber of Deputies in 2006 general election. Subsequently, on May 17th, 2006, he was appointed as Minister of Productive Assets in the cabinet of Romano Prodi. He was a president of Emilia-Romagna from 1994 to 1996, then Minister for Industry, Commerce and Tourism in 96-99, and Minister of Transport 1999-2001. In 2004, he was elected to the European Parliament. Rules are the same. I mean, each of you have 5 minutes for the very beginning, for the first statement, and then we'll go on. Please, would you?
Well, thank you very much. Social democracy is going through difficult times in most of our countries, as we have seen during this conference and talking to each other. Well, I think that's the common opinion. And I think that for that we cannot blame the liberals and the conservatives. We really have to look at ourselves and the changing context in which we work. The world and our societies have changed. Globalization, individualization, secularization, to name a few developments, lead to less social relations within a community and to new divisions. A division between people who have increased chances and people who have less chances. As some call it, people who look at the future with hope and people who look at the future with fear. And another way to say this is that feelings of insecurity have increased. Insecurity, for example, about pensions, about progress for our children, and about jobs. But while some can live with this increased insecurity, others find it increasingly threatening. And too often now, this division is perceived as a division on the left side of the political spectrum. A division between conservatives who want to keep everything as it is, especially the welfare state, and progressives who talk about the need to reform the welfare state and as a result to accept the decreasing of securities. And all too often this division coincides with the lower and higher educated. And the question is, what do we need to do to renew social democracy? First and for all, it is the responsibility of social democracy not to accept a division between conservatives and progressives on the left, but to build a bridge between them, between the lower and higher educated. We have always done that, and we can still do that. But in order to succeed and to rise above a simple division between keeping everything as it is and reforming as much as we can, we must redefine the basic securities that we provide to all. I mean, with basic securities, a broad range of securities. The security that you get medical health when you're sick, an income when you lose your job, but also physical security, safety in the streets and in our neighborhoods. People's needs and lifestyles diverge, but there are basic securities everybody wants. And secondly, by redefining securities, we need to cherish what we achieved in the last century. The eradication of poverty, emancipation of many, a fairer distribution of wealth, more equal chances. And of course, the welfare state with its collective arrangements in which we share risks and secure access to education, healthcare and housing for all. We can and we should be proud of that. And though the context has changed, we should hold on to our social democratic principles and to what has always driven us as providing basic securities, social justice and equal chances. And third, we need to redefine the balance between the individual and the community. And last, social democracy must be international in these times, where more people feel threatened by the world. Our answer cannot be to withdraw from the world. We must take the lead and convince our societies that the only way to influence world events is to be present on the world scene. The only way to contain the destructive forces of international capitalism is to work with other countries through the European Union. So this is, I think, what is our future and what we have to look at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Victor Ponta, who is the leader of PSD Romania.
Thank you very much. I was afraid that I was supposed to break the ice, and taking into account the weather, it would have been much harder for me. I thank very much that I'm the second one to have the intervention. I would just have very short remarks based on the idea that you stressed that you have on the panel only new leaders of the parties, and perhaps we need a new perspective and a new approach. I totally agree with what I read, written by a social democrat, that perhaps in the last 20 years our parties have been the victims of our success. The Socialists and the Social Democrats succeeded to build up the welfare society. They succeeded to make peace, solidarity, rights for all the levels of the society. We accomplished our goals, and the right parties, the conservatives, the liberals, they just came up and took advantage of all these achievements of the left. They came and they said, all right, let's now get richer. I remember something that Margaret Thatcher said. She said, there is no society, there is only individual. It was very easy to say that as long as the Socialists and the Social Democrats built already a society in which solidarity, social protection, health care, education was already something accepted by all the societies as something normal. Of course that it didn't work too much, and now we are suffering the results of the last years in which only a very thin part of the society get really richer, and now we are put by the right parties to pay, all of us, this price and the results of these policies. And what did they do and what are they doing right now? They just keep doing the same. Austerity for the larger categories of the people, austerity for the poorer people, cuts in social expenses, cuts in pension, in wages. Of course, there is no austerity for the banking system or for the financial system. And what is, I think, it's a greater danger, what I feel in my country and the country which are in our region, is that the right parties and the right leaders, they see the reaction of the society as something very negative, and they are threatening the other values, the freedom of the media. I live in a society where media is the public enemy of our president and our right government. The trade unions, I can see that most of the right leaders, they are seeking new changes of the legislation in order to restrain the rights of the opposition, the rights of the trade unions. So I see that confronted with the reaction of the people, they are not making back steps. They are just going towards limiting all the freedoms and the rights that the Social Democrats and Socialists has implemented 20 or 30 or 10 years ago in the new democracies. What is my idea is that we should go back to our values. We should explain again to the people that welfare state, social state, pensions, health, security, education is not something that is guaranteed. It was something implemented by our policies, and it's something that we have to save now in front of the new attacks. Of course, it's much more difficult because I'm coming from a generation which thinks that social state and social security is not for the new generation. They don't need pension. They still have 30 or 40 years until pension. Then they don't need health security because they are healthy. And they don't feel that it's something really needed for them. It's a great challenge for us. That's why I said we are new leaders, but also for leaders with longer term, to speak about our values, not to change, not to find new values, but just to find new ways to communicate with the people and to explain them that if they really need the rights, it's only us, the left, the Socialists and the Social Democrats, the one who built these rights, the one who protected these rights. We are the only one to save these rights. I think it's about going back to the real values, but it's also about a new way to explain to the people and especially to the new generation how important are these values. It's a great challenge, but I still hope, I'm very optimistic that we will succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now it's time coming for Attila Mesterhazy, who is leader of MCCP from Hungary.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Good morning for everyone. There was a lot of good ideas and messages, so it's very difficult to deliver a new message. So I try to get a new approach. I think we have common political challenges all over Europe. And I think we have a lot of experiences that we can share with each other. So I have 5 points that I think all of us are facing nowadays in Europe as social democrats and those who want to help their nation and their country. The first is the economic crisis. The economic crisis, which means high deficit, high public debt, high unemployment rate, and slow growth in the economy. The second problem is the strengthening of the populism, which is a huge problem everywhere, again in Europe. The third one is the fall of trust in the democratic institutions. And the fourth one is the political actions against undercaste people, minorities, immigrants, and indigent people. And the fifth one is the increasing racism all over Europe. And it's an interesting question that under these circumstances, why the right-wing parties could win in the past last elections. And I think the question and the answer is because their message was much more simple, populist, and demagogue. They answered to the voters as national protectionism. That was the first answer, what I noticed. The second was that they need order. The key word is order in the society, and they can guarantee this order. And the third one is that they had a public enemy in the society. They just pointed out, they showed someone in the society, segment of the society, to say these people are responsible for the bad situation of the country, just to be very simple. So it was a quite easy to understand answer, but of course it was not a real answer to these problems. And that's why I think that our social democratic answer and solution has to be more fair, because of course we want to increase the growth of the economy. We want to reduce the public debt. We have to reduce the deficit. We have to increase the employment rate. But we have to keep in mind that we have to find a road which is a sustainable road, because the green growth, the social justice has to be a core value for our policy. And of course we have to defend those people who suffered a lot, and we have to defend those people whose voice cannot be heard, because that's our goal. How can we protect them? How can we represent them in the society? So social justice has to be in the first rank. And third, we have to defend freedom, we have to defend democracy, we have to defend rule of law, we have to defend human rights. In Hungary now it's a key issue, because the new government tries to destroy everything which can control their power. And it's not just a phenomenon that we can read in the book, which is unprecedented. Now it's happening in Hungary. So we have to fight very hard against these phenomena. And the fourth one, that we have to be honest to the voters, we have to be straight to the voters, and we have to be brave. Because these challenges are so harsh, so intensive, that we have to be brave. We have to be brave, we have to be innovative, because then we cannot solve it, we cannot cope with these challenges. Because what would happen if the stigmatization of the underclass people is commonly accepted in Europe? What would happen if the racism increasing in Europe? What would happen if government thinks that they are above the people, they are above the law? And what would happen if the solidarity wouldn't be a real core value in the European culture? So that's why I think those people who are suffering are out there, and I think they are alone. So they need a force, they need a movement who can protect them, who can represent them, because they don't have the possibility to represent their interest. And that's why only the Social Democrats could be the movement, could be the strength for them to act and to protect them, and keep in mind that they are our voters and they are our friends. So I think this is our historical responsibility nowadays in Europe, and we must defend these people. We must stand for those whose voice cannot be heard. And I think in this work, our mission is to be united. We have to cooperate, because unity, cooperation means strength, I think, nowadays in Europe. So what we have done in these months in Budapest, there was a meeting, and thanks for Martin Schulz and Paul to be there in Budapest. It was a great help for us in the campaign, and thanks for the video message that you just sent to the Hungarian Socialists. Just to inform you, we had a big rally in Budapest. It was more than 10,000 people in the biggest stadium in Hungary. And we were demonstrating against the government, and we showed them that we have less support in the society, but we have strengths and willingness to fight against them because they are bad for the country, they are bad for the nation. And I think that's why we have to act together, because these kind of sessions that here and in Sofia and in Budapest can help, I can assure you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And it's time for Pier Luigi Bersani. Floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Grazie di questa occasione. Io penso che sia facile dire che cosa vuole un progressista, sia più difficile dire come le forze progressiste possono prendere la guida della nostra società, perché la globalizzazione ha dato un colpo alle forze progressiste europee, l'effetto dumping della globalizzazione ha dato un colpo alle forze progressiste europee e quindi c'è un problema molto serio che io credo debba essere affrontato con il coraggio di qualche scommessa impegnativa. La prima scommessa è quella di collegare la prospettiva delle forze progressiste alla dimensione europea. La dimensione nazionale nella globalizzazione è una dimensione difensiva nella quale la destra avrà sempre un enorme vantaggio. Le nostre carte le possiamo giocare solo in una dimensione europea, in politiche economiche e sociali, in una politica estera, dimensione europea. L'Europa è in una grave crisi, c'è una responsabilità della destra nella crisi delle istituzioni europee, ma non solo della destra. Credo che in questo momento di crisi economica e sociale le forze progressiste, tutte, devono sostenere un progetto europeo di controllo della finanza speculativa, un progetto europeo per il lavoro, e questa può essere una grande bandiera delle forze progressiste. Seconda scommessa, collegare le politiche progressiste alle condizioni, alla prospettiva della nuova generazione. In particolare per quel che riguarda la ridefinizione del welfare, rileggendolo con gli occhi della nuova generazione, in particolare per quel che riguarda l'ingresso al lavoro, il premio da dare alla conoscenza, ma soprattutto evitando che il debito degli Stati, cresciuto per la crisi della finanza, venga pagato non dalla finanza, ma dall'occupazione. La questione del debito può diventare un macigno, un ostacolo insormontabile per le prospettive della nuova generazione. Questo è un problema numero uno, secondo me. Terzo punto, infine, collegare le politiche progressiste alle questioni della democrazia. La democrazia vive momenti critici, abbiamo un populismo incombente. Bisogna che riformiamo i sistemi costituzionali combattendo il populismo, essendo inclusivi nei diritti per i cittadini che non li hanno, e in particolare vedere come nella prospettiva le nuove tecnologie possano collegarsi ad una partecipazione consapevole e responsabile. Credo che questa sia una grandissima frontiera. Ora, queste sfide, altre ancora, nessuno può affrontarle da solo, bisogna discutere fra tutte le forze progressiste con una grande apertura e collegarci a tutte le forze che nel mondo si contrappongono alla destra e al populismo, perché nella globalizzazione la destra può vincere, può esistere in un paese solo, ma il riformismo non può esistere in un paese solo nell'epoca della globalizzazione. Questo è, secondo me, il punto di fondo della sfida che abbiamo davanti. Grazie.
Thank you very much. Well, let's see the short video now, and then we will turn to the debate with speakers.
Neoliberalism is ruling the world because it is global, so it is more powerful than most states. The solution is simple. Social democracy must become global too. Let's start in Europe by building a real European Socialist Party. Young Europeans are less and less interested in old politics. They don't vote. What can we do then to tackle young people abstaining from the voting booth?
Well, it's time for our speakers now, and let's start with catching Trautman, who is French member of Parliament and Vice President of Socialists and Democrats Group in European Parliament. The floor is yours, please.
Merci à tous les camarades qui se sont déjà exprimés. Je voudrais focaliser mon intervention sur une question qui me taraude et qui part du constat que la crise financière entraîne une crise morale et politique qui nous touche, nous, les sociodémocrates, tout particulièrement. Et nous sommes touchés face à la résignation qui est celle qui résulte sous la forme d'un pessimisme social face à la contrainte de la rigueur, contrainte qui apparaît incontournable à nos concitoyens. L'effet négatif pour nous, c'est la difficulté à convaincre d'une alternative politique possible. Et l'argument de la droite dans cette période, quand nous avançons nos solutions, la taxe sur les transactions financières, la recherche de ressources propres, la fiscalité verte, les nouvelles voies d'une solidarité en matière d'harmonisation sociale et fiscale, elle se pose, elle, en bonne gestionnaire économe, grâce à la rigueur, et elle nous présente encore dans cette sorte de caricature d'une gauche qui vise le progrès par la contribution supplémentaire et qu'elle dénonce comme excessive sur le plan de l'effort fiscal ou de l'augmentation de la dépense de l'État. Comment nos concitoyens perçoivent-ils cette rigueur? Comme un transfert injuste d'une responsabilité et d'une dette pour une crise qu'ils n'ont pas eu le sentiment de provoquer. Je prends deux exemples. Le premier, le mouvement étudiant en Grande-Bretagne, pour protester devant l'explosion des charges que représente le récolage. Où est la contrepartie? Un diplôme pour autant d'années d'endettement? Je prends l'exemple des retraites. Pour la pension, elle est totalement liée au travail et à la cotisation payée dans le cadre de l'emploi que l'on a exercé. Elle est en quelque sorte une part de salaire différé. Or, lorsqu'on sépare la question du financement des retraites de la question du travail, on rompt définitivement le lien qui a permis de construire dans la société salariale une véritable solidarité sociale. Or, dans la contribution du citoyen, il y a le bénéfice individuel, la juste rétribution du travail, mais il y a aussi par sa contribution, son paiement de ses charges salariales, la contribution au système de péréquation et à la répartition d'un bénéfice collectif. Il me semble que beaucoup de questions rejoignent la nature de la contribution du citoyen et le sentiment qu'il a de ne plus pouvoir payer ou d'être obligé de payer injustement. Je crois que nos textes comportent les mesures, les propositions d'action qui sont autant d'instruments politiques pour une relance et pour une régulation du monde plus efficace. Alors où est le problème? Si nous voyons notre difficulté à obtenir des scores positifs sur le plan national et européen, en tout cas pour certains de nos partis, on voit que dans la proximité, Là où le citoyen a la visibilité de la contrepartie en service public et en engagement du bénéfice qu'il peut en tirer sur le plan individuel et collectif, il nous accorde sa confiance. Alors je termine en disant qu'il est important que nous sachions exprimer, non pas simplement les mesures ou le programme, mais comment nous voulons renouer le contact avec le citoyen en partant de sa contribution. Quelle valeur accorde-t-on aujourd'hui à l'effort qu'il fait quand il a des petits revenus ou des revenus moyens, quand il est déjà sous le remboursement des crédits et qu'il ne veut plus payer pour les autres, que ce soit sur le plan local, national ou même européen. La clé de cette contribution, c'est l'équité, la durabilité de l'effet de sa contribution financière, et c'est en même temps la solidarité sociale et environnementale. Ce sont les clés de la nouvelle social-démocratie. Et j'appellerai cela le contrat du juste effort. Car est-ce qu'il faut que l'on puisse proposer aux citoyens uniquement de payer les dettes contractées par les États, ou est-ce qu'on leur propose de financer une part de la croissance avec un bénéfice en emploi? Est-ce qu'on peut lui proposer simplement de payer pour réparer, ou bien est-ce qu'on lui propose de payer pour investir? Je crois que quelques-unes de nos clés politiques tiennent à un tabou que nous avons parfois du mal à aborder. Pourtant, à crise financière correspond la question de savoir qui paye. Il faut que sur qui paye, nous sachions dire où est l'effort, où est le bénéfice individuel et où est le bénéfice collectif. C'est juste la part de ce que je verrai aujourd'hui manquer à ce que nous avons très brillamment exprimé dans les textes qui nous ont été remis.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for Kaisa Penny from Finland. She is a vice president of the ECOC. Please.
Thank you. I'm a vice president of ECOC, and there's an issue that I would like to raise here and also ask a question from the panelists. Progressive societies need to be inclusive, and as has been said here before, we need to create possibilities for participation, we need to create and redistribute, and we need to include. We need to include all members of our societies, the youth, the women, and the different minorities. And this brings me to an issue that is very important for ECOC and what we've been talking a lot about in the past years as well, and which I wish to ask a question from you as well. We talk often and much about immigration in Europe. We all fight populism, racism, and far right in our countries in one form or another. Yet we talk a lot less about integration. Integration that works both ways, not just so that the immigrants integrate into our societies, but also our societies adapting and accommodating for those who come and who came. I believe that we cannot reach equality and social cohesion or create progressive societies without integration of all the residents in our societies. And integration also has to mean opportunities in all fields of life, in education, in labour markets, and also in politics. And to make this short, I would just like to raise these issues and also ask the question of what it is that we can do. How can we increase participation, create real opportunities, and include everyone in our progressive societies? Thank you.
Thank you. And now Hans Swoboda, Austrian member of European Parliament, Vice President of the Socialist and Democratic Group here in European Parliament.
Thank you. Good morning. Came a bit late because of the weather conditions from Brussels, but heard our colleagues Ponta and Mesterhazy, and that reminds me that the Socialist Group in the past days was particularly concerned about the development in some of the countries, because we speak about progressive societies, but sometimes we find regressive societies. We find a way backward. We had the meeting in Budapest. We had a meeting in Bulgaria on press freedom. We had a discussion recently with Comrade Ponta in our group. And colleagues, we have to show solidarity with our colleagues, also with the people who fight for press freedom in Bulgaria and Romania, and also in Hungary, the people who fight for civil liberties. Sometimes we do it as if these things would have been secured already in Europe. No, it's not secure. It's in danger in Europe because the right wing, in a very skillful way, with populism and a mixture of populism, of etatism, of nationalism, try to resemble support in the public. And at the same time, they restrict the freedom of the media. At the same time, they restrict the freedom of society. The civil liberties are endangered. And therefore, also from this Congress, who is fighting for progressive societies, has to fight against the regression and the way backward in some of our societies. One issue we're also dealing very much in the Socialist group and also with our colleagues is, of course, the issue of minorities. Because we still see, on the example of the Roma, that there's a big job to do. We rejected the measures taken by Sarkozy in ejecting Romas out of the country. But this is not enough. We have also to solve the issues on the ground, in the villages, in the cities where the issues are there, to fight against discrimination, to fight against poverty. Because poverty, of course, is not only an issue for minorities, it's also an issue of majorities when there are poor people. And therefore, this progressive society must be have a special social dimension to fight against poverty. We had the year fight against poverty, the European year of fight against poverty, but we don't see many results. So this is still an obligation we have to continue to fight. When I spoke in the beginning of Bulgaria, of Romania and Hungary, we also see some of these elements in so-called old Europe, if you look at the development in the Netherlands and in some other countries, where again there is this mixture of xenophobia, Islamophobia in that way, nationalism. So we cannot be satisfied with what we reached. We have to continue the fight. And as Martin Schulz will say later, this cooperation between the party and the Socialist group in European Parliament, and of course together with the National Party, is a big step forward we reached in the past months, because it is necessary, because our joint fight is only the ground for the next European election, is the ground for success also at the next national election. Therefore, dear colleagues, let's show this solidarity with all our colleagues in the countries where they have a much bigger fight than before, because the nationalist movement is there, the right-wing movement is there, and what is the biggest danger, and this is my last word, is not that we have only the extreme right. The biggest danger is that the so-called moderate right more and more accepts the policies of the extreme right. And this must be our fight against the extreme right, but against this tendency of the so-called moderate right to go the same way as the extreme right. We have much to do in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, gentlemen, we have one specific question asked by Kaiser Penny, and perhaps we should try to fight with that. If I could ask Jeb to start, please.
Well, that was a question about integration and how to integrate the minorities in our societies. Well, I think two elements are at stake here. The first one is that it is absolutely necessary for those who come into our countries to learn the language. That is an absolute prerequisite to take part in society. And looking back to our own history, we for a long time we neglected this fact, and as a result we saw and we see that a lot of people coming from the same community stay in the same community without integrating in the rest of society. So therefore I think that learning the language is very important, and as far as I'm concerned, I think that it's also a duty of society to facilitate that. Well, this is a debate at this time in the Netherlands. Our right-wing governments say, well, all those people coming to the Netherlands, well, they do it themselves. We, the Labour Party, say no, let's take part in it. It's so absolutely necessary to take part, to learn the language,
to learn about the society, that we have to facilitate that. So that is the first thing to do. And the second one, of course, is that it is very important for all those people coming into a new country that they find a job, because finding a job is elementary to be part of a country. So I think in this respect, those two elements are very important: learning the language, and as much as you can, finding a job in order to learn all those people of other countries, of other parts of society, and that makes it possible to be real part of the society. And maybe a last point, and I think that's elementary in all our countries, finding and building new communities, because of the fact that in the last period of time, old integration elements, for example, religion, for example, family, on the contrary, make the fact that a lot of people are individuals, and those individuals is contrary to making a community, and therefore we have to find new possibilities to make communities. So I think that those three elements are necessary in order to integrate people: language, work, and new communities.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, would you like to add something to this, or shall we turn to another question?
Well, perhaps one thing more, because I think I fully agree that these are very important issues. But if you want to compare, for example, in Hungary, we don't have this challenge with the immigrants. We have challenges with the Roma minorities. And I think one additional thing is that it's good if we are talking about integration and not assimilation of these groups of people. And the other thing is that we have to change the minds of the people. And I think this is the most difficult thing, because we have to finance programs of integration. We have to elaborate several initiatives to do what you just mentioned. But parallelly, we have to change the minds of the majority of the society, because they also have to understand that these people are good to be there, and they have rights, and they have to be accepted, of course, under those circumstances that you just mentioned. So this was the additional moment that I wanted to express: change the minds of the people.
I would also add to what Attila said. Of course, in our countries, we don't have yet problems of integration with new religious or ethnic groups, but we have this huge problem of the Roma community. And I would stress once again that during the last month, when President Sarkozy expressed his views about integration and Roma community, it was only the Socialist family who rose the voice and helped us as a country to react against what Sarkozy, and not only him. I think that even some other right forces in Italy, they have the same perspective. I would say that, of course, integration means, first of all, education. If you have only a sort of politics that our right leaders had, a sort of deal with the leaders of the community, they just guaranteed the votes for the right parties, and the Prime Minister and President had offered some important advantages for the leaders of the communities. But the communities remain in the same situation of huge need of education, jobs, and a social approach regarding the discrimination. I would say that as the socialist family, as the European level reacted, the real hope for the integration of communities, it's on our social politics, and in expressing once again that the right parties, they just offer advantages for the leaders and never a solution for the community. Thank you very much.
Pier Luigi Bersani.
In un paese come il mio l'immigrazione ci porta dei vantaggi e ci porta dei problemi. In questo modo i vantaggi vanno verso la parte mediamente più ricca della popolazione e i problemi vanno verso la parte più povera della popolazione. E quindi l'elemento di disordine nel processo di immigrazione si scarica prevalentemente sulle condizioni dei più deboli. Questo è il problema che può indurre alla crescita di una mentalità populista e anche regressiva dentro il popolo. E quindi ci vogliono politiche per cui chi riceve i vantaggi paghi il servizio in più che va dato per non buttar fuori dal servizio un povero nostro perché sta arrivando uno più povero di lui. Per me questo è il problema principale. Naturalmente sono d'accordo con i colleghi perché riguarda questioni, ad esempio quelle della lingua, che ritengo assolutamente determinanti.
Well, this is one of main problems of the almost entire Europe, or most of European countries, more or less. And one of question that we are obliged to try to answer here is your opinion what part of decision-taking, of policies, of solving problems, are you able to, in your opinion, are you able to solve locally, on national level, and what is European problem, what should be addressed to European level? Well, and perhaps we could start with Mr. Mesterhazy, please.
Well, I think it's very difficult to judge what kind of problem should be solved in the national or local or European level, but I think those challenges that we were just talking about, definitely the challenges that we have to solve in the European level, the racism, the immigrants, the taxation policy, unemployment rates, and all these issues are needed to be solved by a common solution, more or less. And of course, it doesn't mean that there is only and very successful one solution, but at least we have to share the best practices. For example, in Hungary, we managed quite well the economic crisis in the last year. Of course, we paid the price because the society doesn't support the Socialist Party for this program. But as the time is passing, more and more people can understand that what was the reason behind of this crisis management plan. And I think that's why it's important, these kind of sessions, to share what we have done and how can we solve those problems which is again and again coming up in different European countries. So I think always good to have the European level or international level, and then we can gain some good practices from each other.
Well, there's also always a problem of one solution fits all. When you try to go to of this kind of mentality, when you try to go up to international interventions or policies, what's your position towards that? I mean, how to avoid this, taking advantage of possibility of exchanging experiences, and is there, in your opinion, any general way of dealing with this kind of problem? Job.
Well, in the first place, about talking about policies on a European level, I think that with respect to questions like migration, surely we should do that on a European level. And what's at stake at the moment in our discussions is, of course, where we see in nearly all our countries the coming up of extreme right wing. And that's not by circumstance. So I think it's important for all of us to analyze why this is the case, how that's working out. For example, when I'm discussing this with all the people here, I'm hearing always the same thing. The right wing is taking our language, is taking our ideas. So it's important for us to analyze what's going on. And in the second place, and I agree with what you were saying, that it is important to discuss and to discuss the best practices which we found in our own countries, in order to see where it's possible to use them too in our own countries. And I think you're right. It's not a question of one fits for all, but looking to those best practices, it's important for us to know them, so that we can see whether we can use them. So yes, there are a lot of elements we can do in an international and in a European way. In the same policy on the one hand, and analyzing what's going on in our countries. And I think that in those analyses we see a lot of common interest. So in the third place, those best practices for us are important to look at and to see what we can do with that.
And what's the Romanian point of view?
Besides of the best practices, which I totally agree, I would rather speak about common standards and European standards, because what Hannes Svoboda has mentioned in his intervention is just the reality. If we are talking about Romania, Hungary now, under Viktor Orban's rule, even Bulgaria, we are not living under the same standards. First of all, democratically. What is happening with the opposition rights, with the parliamentarian system, would be unacceptable, and it's even sometimes difficult to explain as European standards. Also the social standards. For example, our country is spending for the social expenses only half of the figures of the GDPs as the European average, and it's very difficult to explain why the money for and the budgetary funds for the other expenses are at the European standards, but for social expenses are always the half of it. But first of all, as I told you from the beginning, the basic rights and the basic freedoms. These are the standards which we have accomplished when we joined the European Union, and now being in the European Union, it seems that these are not important anymore. We had 2 or 3 right leaders, European leaders, coming to Bucharest, and they were asked, this is a good idea to reduce all the social rights, and they said, yes, but are you doing the same in our country? No, you should do it in our country, in Romania or Hungary. So I would raise the subject, and perhaps we will discuss even more on another occasion, that the European standards, the democratic social standards, are not real standards for all the countries and all the parts and all the population, all the levels of the population in Europe, and that makes people less trustful in the European cooperation and the European values.
Well, so does that mean you think that we should expect that Union will put more attention to these democratic standards, whether they are still there as they have to be before East European countries join the Union?
Absolutely, and that's why it's not the topic of this panel, but that's why my Hungarian colleague and I, we spoke about the same issues, because we are under the same danger. The reaction of our governments and our leaders Now they join the European Union. Nobody asked them if they still respect the first standards that were requested when we joined the European Union. And the right leaders, Sarkozy, Berlusconi, Merkel, they will never criticize Orban or Basescu for not respecting these freedom standards and social standards. So they feel themselves very free and very protected from the European criticism, and they think that the only reaction towards the society unhappiness is to reduce the media, the opposition, and all the trade unions, all the other rights which were gained as new democracies after '89. It's a real threat, and you should believe it's not just complaining in front of our family, it's just an emergency signal.
Pier Luigi?
Ma abbiamo dei problemi comuni e ci vogliono risposte comuni, questa è la questione principale. Penso anch'io che questa crescita di forze populiste regressive derivi da un riflesso di difesa rispetto alla globalizzazione e che quindi queste forze interpretino un disagio reale in modo appunto regressivo. Ora, da parte nostra non possiamo limitarci a criticare o a fare prediche. Dobbiamo prendere quello stesso disagio dal nostro lato, a nostro modo. Per esempio, se noi dicessimo tutti chiaramente che il debito che ha provocato la finanza lo paga la finanza e non lo pagano le politiche sociali, l'occupazione, diremmo una cosa che si fa comprendere che incrocia quel disagio, ma in modo progressista, democratico. E questo però possiamo dirlo solo assieme, forse non basta neanche l'Europa, solo assieme possiamo dire si mette una tassa sulle transazioni finanziarie per assorbire il surplus di debito pubblico che si è creato per salvare le banche. Solo insieme. Se non lo diciamo assieme vince il populismo, ma è matematico. È matematico che vince il populismo. E quindi io rispondo così, le questioni principali sono sempre le questioni comuni. Le altre possiamo vederle nella dimensione nazionale, locale, ma la questione principale nel mondo di oggi è sempre una questione da affrontare in modo comune. E se non questo purtroppo è un problema serissimo, ecco, secondo me abbastanza drammatico, perché prossimi anni le cose potranno prendere una direzione o l'altra a seconda di decisioni politiche che prendiamo in questo momento, in questa fase.
We are still waiting for Caroline Gemes from Belgium. She seems to be pretty close now. But one question we should open, and it's possible to do it before, I guess. Looking into the crisis situation as is described on this Congress, well, why do you find social democratic parties in Europe doing so bad in this kind of general situation? I mean, where economy goes bad, when there's a rising conflict between financial world and investors and capitalists and the working class and the working people, let's should go up. Why doesn't it happen in these years? I mean, not 5 years ago.
Well, I think, just to be very frank, if we could answer this question, I think we would need or deserve a prize or something like that. I think thousands of people thinking about this now in our family, in the social democratic family. How can we cope this challenge? How can we solve this problem? How can we find a new way that we can get into power and deliver our program to the voters? So I think this is a quite simple question, but I think it needs the most complicated answer. This is the main question, I think, for now the European social democratic movement. How can we deal with this situation that's why I just put into my presentation that under these circumstances, the right-wing parties were much more successful than the leftist parties. And it's a big question, because if there is uncertainty in the society, in the economy, there are crises all over the world, then the organic answer would be that the left parties, the social democratic parties, can help the people so they can win at the elections. But in Europe, totally other way was happening. So that's why I think that populism, demagogy, some kind of public enemy to show to the people, and national protectionism, I guess these were, at least here in Hungary, more or less the main issues why the right-wing government could reach this kind of majority in the parliament. So, and I see more or less the same phenomena in different European countries also.
Well, there are several reasons, I think. Let me take one, especially in times of insecurity, where jobs are fading, where we have an economic crisis. People are looking for security, and looking for security, they always looked to the social democratic parties, looking to us who were at the fundaments of our welfare state. At the same time, we see that the welfare state has to be redefined. And redefinition, as I said before, is sometimes also bringing it back, making it more insecure for people. So this is an element where we want to give security to people. At the same time, we see that we live in an insecure time, that we have, all of us have dealing with the economic and financial crisis. We are parties who are looking for government as an important facilitator. At the same time, we see that government isn't giving people what they want. At the same time, we have to bring back government because of the fact that it is necessary, because of the fact that we don't have enough money. So we want to give people security in an insecure time. We need a good government, and we see that government isn't good enough. So those are elements why the risks of those things which are part of our ideals and values are at stake. And I think those are at least some arguments why we have a difficult time. And that needs for us to redefine, as I said before, what we do want to do. How redefining welfare state. We see how youngsters are looking to our welfare state in a way that they say, well, we have to pay, and what do we get back? So we have to bring the different generations together. We have to redefine security, also security and safety in our environment. So those are the elements where we have to find our answers in this time. But it is, I think, at this moment easier to see why it's difficult for us than that we have the answers.
Well, Process De Rosa, member of European Parliament from Ireland, declared that he would like, please, take the floor.
Hello again. It was not my intention to come in on this debate, but I'm afraid my my curiosity was sparked by some of the things that were said. First of all, could I take issue with this question of language? I don't know of a single migrant anywhere that does not seek to learn the language of the country that they arrive in. In order to survive economically, that's what they must do. I mean, it's not possible for them to survive or to make progress in the society without the language. So I have to suggest that this issue of raising the language as a means of overcoming populism and so on is a metaphor, in my view, for assimilation. But it's also an avoidance of the fundamental issue here, which is ideology. You know, the issue of how migrants are treated is ideology. It's about identifying and breaking up society into different elements so that the majority element can then identify a scapegoat. And I think as social democrats we have to re-emphasize at all times the quality of citizenship. It seems to me that there is no other way of addressing this issue except through the notion of equality of citizenship. The further point, final point I want to make is that when we complain that the right are robbing our ideas and our language, we have to question ourselves, is it that our ideas and our language are so conservative now that the right can in fact quite comfortably take them on board? So it's not just a question of trying to sort of rewrite our language. We must look at what it is we're saying to see whether or not it reflects the reality of not just of society today, but what kind of society ultimately people want. And as you say, we need security, but we also need a society where tolerance exists and where people have an equal opportunity to make the best for themselves and their families. I mean, you know, just final point. In Germany in the 30s, the Jews were the most integrated element of society, and yet they were extracted and slaughtered because of ideology, not because of language or not because of culture. It was because of ideology. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have like 6 minutes left, so perhaps the last chance for everybody. And now let's start from Jeb, and we'll go here. Like 2 minutes, please.
Well, I think both of the most important.
I think that the most important elements have gone through the discussion. We talked about
the importance of the welfare state, at the same time how to redefine it in a way that the different generations can find themselves in there in a way that it's good for them. We talked about the importance of security in all different elements. I was struck by the discussion which came from the both discussions here about the ways in which democracy has to play an important part in different parts of Europe, and I think that we have to take we have to be very we have to be sure that those elements take an important part also in those parts of Europe, and I think that especially for me is a lesson that we have to take into account. Thank you.
Thank you. And Attila Mesterhazy.
Just as a closing remarks?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, actually, I think you just mentioned what are the fields where we have to work together and cooperate. I think definitely that Victor just said that democratic values, freedom, human rights, these are the common pillars of the social democratic family. So I think these are those values we have to stand for in any case. And we have to help those countries where these core values are not in practice, at least temporary. So I think that's why it's important to give the information to our friends that, yes, it could happen in 2010 in Europe, in a European country, that they don't respect, the government doesn't respect these core values. Because if not, then it will be very difficult to cope with the other challenges also. So I think it's very important to give the message to the others, and I think, just to refer back to the Irish colleague, that I think the ideology, one reason behind of that, it's quite sure, and the other one is that there are a lot of stereotypes and myths in the people's mind, and that's what we have to change. In Hungary, we noticed this with the gypsy minority, that they are not talking about facts, they are talking about stereotypes which are living in the people's mind. And that's why the education and all these kind of programs can help to solve these problems in the society, to have social justice and a fair and intelligent society everywhere in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. Victor Ponta.
I would use the last 2 minutes that you gave me to answer to your question, why our results were so poor and the right parties have won the last battles. Because they used two weapons, fear and guiltiness. They said to the people, if you are not accepting the cuts and the austerity measures, you will lose your job. If you are not paying your debts to the bank will take your house. If you are not obeying the rules, your children will not go to school, and also guiltiness. At least I've noticed that in our countries, but they said, now we are suffering because of the welfare state. We are suffering, we don't have money because the pensions are too high. We have to make cuts in the budget because we spend too much with social things. Fear and guiltiness, they played on the negative part of human being. I would just say once again, closing my initial remarks, that we should go back to our values. We should not think that people believes that these are old values, solidarity, social security, and I'm rather optimistic that in the next fights the victory will come back to us. The real challenge will be for our parties to rebuild the welfare state, the solidar state, and the trust in these values.
Thank you very much. And Luigi Bersani.
Credo che le forze progressiste, in particolare nei paesi più ricchi d'Europa, hanno sempre trovato il loro volto in un'idea di società a fiscalità alta, a welfare forte e anche pesante, costoso, a diritti molto ampi, e quindi una società costosa che a fronte della globalizzazione è andata in difficoltà. E questa difficoltà l'hanno pagata politicamente i progressisti. Credo che sia questo il punto principale, poi ce ne sono tanti altri che spiegano le difficoltà. Ora, io credo che il compito nostro non è quello di abbandonare il modello sociale europeo, bisogna correggerlo, in particolare con gli occhi appunto della nuova generazione, perché credo che il sistema anche mondiale andrà prima o poi ad un assestamento, e quindi noi possiamo giocare la carta anche di una società più costosa ma più innovativa. E credo che il nostro problema per riformare il welfare sia avere un po' di crescita in più. Siamo un continente, un'area che cresce troppo poco, quindi dobbiamo avere una politica economica e una politica di riforme che abbia una dimensione europea e aiuti le nostre società a crescere un po' di più. Se no la cosa secondo me sarà piuttosto difficile.
Thank you very much. Well, that's the end of the panel. Thank you, gentlemen, thank you for listening. And now I invite you to a short video about financial transactions tax. Thank you.
Thank you.
Governments